AITA for using the contents of my late father's will to expose that my stepmother had been forging his signature on financial documents for years. My father died 6 months ago after a long illness. He had been largely incapacitated for 18 months, unable to manage finances, frequently confused. When the will was read, there were significant discrepancies between what my father had told me he intended to leave and what the will contained. When I started pulling on that thread, I found that I had been right to pull. My father and I were close in the way that sometimes develops between a parent and an adult child when the other parent is no longer in the picture. Closer than I might have been otherwise, shaped by the specific circumstances of his second marriage and what that marriage did to our family dynamic. He married Sandra when I was 19. I was not opposed to this. Sandra was, in the early years, a person I thought had made my father genuinely happy, and his happiness mattered more to me than my own discomfort with the change. Over time, my relationship with Sandra became more complicated. The control she exercised over my father's life increased incrementally in ways that were individually explicable and cumulatively alarming. By the time he was seriously ill, she was the sole manager of every aspect of his life, including his finances, and my access to him had been progressively reduced. In the final year of his life, I was permitted, essentially, supervised visits. Sandra was always present. I was not alone with my father for more than a few minutes at any point in his last 12 months. When he was lucid, which was perhaps 40% of my visits, he said things to me that I wrote down. He told me, on 3 separate occasions, that he wanted certain things to happen after he died. He was specific about amounts and recipients. I wrote these down and dated them. The will, when read, contradicted most of what he had told me. The estate was structured almost entirely in Sandra's favor. The specific items and amounts he had described to me were absent. The will had been updated 8 months before he died, at a point when his capacity to make those decisions would have been, at minimum, seriously compromised. I hired a solicitor. I hired a forensic document specialist. I spent 4 months and a significant amount of money. The document specialist found evidence of signature inconsistencies on the updated will and on 3 other financial documents from the same period, evidence that the signatures were not my father's. I filed a report with the police. I filed a claim in probate court. I told Sandra by letter through my solicitor exactly what I had found. Am I the asshole? Update 6 months later. The probate case is ongoing. These cases take time, and I am prepared for this to take considerably more time before it is resolved. What I can tell you is that the forensic evidence has been accepted as sufficient to proceed. Sandra has not responded to my solicitor's letter directly. She has, through her own legal representation, characterized my actions as an attempt to contest a legitimate will out of greed and family resentment. I want to be precise about what I am doing. I am not contesting a will I disagree with. I am presenting evidence that my father did not sign documents that were signed in his name by someone who had exclusive access to him in the period when those documents were created. That is not grief-driven greed. That is what happened. I have spoken to my father's GP as part of the process. The GP's notes from the period when the will was updated document significant cognitive impairment, a level that would have raised serious questions about capacity to make financial decisions. My half-sister, Sandra's daughter from a previous relationship, has not spoken to me since I filed the report. I had not expected her to. I hope she is not as aware of what her mother did as I sometimes fear she is. I am doing this for my father. He told me 3 times what he wanted. I wrote it down. Someone else decided his wishes didn't matter. I have decided they do. NTA or ITA, would you have done the same? Comment below.